What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to the DFS Picks and Prediction Show. And yeah, we're here on a Wednesday, usually on a Tuesday, but DraftKings waited a little bit too long to get the salaries out, which is weird because they typically have them out by then. But yeah, we're here regardless, one day later, and we're still not even have all the fights on DraftKings. We're still missing the Martinez fight, which I believe just got announced today. And then we're still missing the Mason Jones fight as well. So yeah, we'll talk about all of that. And as always, we're going to go through our fights to target, fights to fade, fighter to fade, favorite dog, favorite GP play, favorite cash play, favorite value play, and favorite dart throw. Then we'll give our quick picks, answer any questions you guys have at the end, and then also see who won the DraftKings contest last week, and then give our new lineups for this week as well. So I am here with a crew of very sharp guys, and I'm here with AJ. What is up, AJ? Looking forward to this card.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be splendid, man. I mean, we're coming off another slate where one of the listeners won big in a tournament. We got those screenshots Saturday night, so that's a beautiful thing to see. And, yeah, we got some fights that are missing from the DraftKings player pool, but we'll work with what we got, and, yeah, we'll do this.
Yeah, seeing those screenshots are an awesome thing. I love seeing people win money. That's awesome. And I'm here with Luke as well. Luke, what is up? You looking forward to the card?
100%. I feel like I say it every week, even some of the times we get the cards where people are like, I'm not that interested in it. We're grinding these cards, we're researching them. So I don't know. I'm always looking forward to them every week. Some interesting spots, some good violence in here too.
Yeah, this card's good. I mean, 14 fights should be a really fun card. And I'm here also with everybody's favorite uncle, Uncle Weezy. What is up?
Not too much, man. Getting ready to break this card down with you guys. I'm really interested to hear what the rest of you guys have to say about some of these plays on this card because I don't like a lot of the underdogs, but then again, I'm not betting a lot of the favorites on these money lines. So I'm trying to see if we're going to be on the same page with some of these fights to fades and some of these guys that we want in our cash and our GPP lineups. So let's get into this, man. I'm looking forward to it.
100%. If you guys can all please leave a like on the video, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. That'd be much, much appreciated. Let's try to get those likes up. Last week, we got really close to 100 likes. Let's see if we can hit 100 for this show. So let's check out the chat here. We have Uncertainty in the chat saying first. We have Red Lemons as well, saying he's been in the chat room for a millennium. I don't know about that. Headley One saying odds on Vettori, Costa being canceled. Yeah, lots going on. We heard the press conference today where Costa said that he's like way overweight. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the main event, but not looking good. Curious to see what does happen. And then Tajik the GOAT, my favorite show. Appreciate that, Tajik, a lot coming from you. And then, oh boy, a huge dono. Palama just checking in. We'll watch replay later. This is for the man, the myth, Johnny by God Parsons. Oh, Weezy's not going to like to hear that. But yeah, shout out to Palama with the big dono. Weez, any thoughts on that, man?
Dude, the thought is that is a stud of a donation. That is a stud of a human being right there. Lou Diamond Phillips, man, one of the great supporters in the community. I'm glad he cashed on it, man, because one of the things that happens in our sport is sometimes the judges get it wrong. I thought they absolutely got that fight wrong, but guess what? There were a lot of people that bet him, and the way this sport goes, every one of those times you get one of those bad judges' decisions going your way, man. Love it because it happens, dude. And sometimes they get taken away from you, but sometimes the gambling gods give back. And right now, this gentleman is giving back to this show and Pub Sports Radio, and that's awesome. So thank you, Lou. Appreciate it, man.
Shout out to him. Appreciate that a ton. Tajik saying that Lou won a big yesterday. Congrats. Yeah, shout out to him. That's awesome. Raw saying we be pubbing. Adam saying, yo, boys, what is up, Adam? And then Masio saying, bang, bang, I agree. So I say we get into it, guys. And as always, let's start with the fight to target. And let's start with AJ. What do you like in here?
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty popular option, I think, but I can't go wrong here. Jai Herbert versus Karma Worthy. 8,800 and 7,400. These guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls, I think. Both these guys have power in their hands, and we've seen it time and time again. They both have questionable durability. They just don't take damage that well. Worthy, the last fight against Malarkey was a huge concern, just seeing how easily he went down there. And obviously we saw Herbert go down to Trinaldo. Looked like he was dazed by some ground and pound by Marcano, also knocked out on the regionals. And then conversely, both guys carry a lot of power in their hands. They both have a lot of knockouts on their resume. The fight's very unlikely to go the distance. And another angle why I don't think it'll be super, super popular is because it's earlier on the card. We tend to see some fighters that are earlier on the prelims just don't get the ownership that they deserve because it's a human psychology thing. People want to have the fighters further on in the card because they want to have more bullets in the chamber, so to speak. So I love this fight from a GPP perspective. My preferred option is Herbert because I think he probably wins, but I'm not counting out Worthy completely. If he wins, I think he probably gets it done inside the distance. So I love this fight for GPPs.
I like it. I agree with you. I'll have a ton of that. I'm going a different route. I'm going with Liviana Souza. Just kidding. I'm going with Jeff Molina going against Daniel Lacerda. And I feel like this fight has potential to score a lot of points for the winner. So there's some question marks about Daniel Lacerda. I think he's been out of the first round like once in his entire career. A 100% finish rate for him. And I have seen Molina taken down a lot more than I'd like to. He was taken down several times in all of his UFC fights, UFC and contenders. And then even on like outside of the UFC, he's taken down easily. And from what I've seen from Lacerda, he has decent wrestling. He's a brown belt in BJJ. I could see Lacerda having success early, but on the flip side, we saw Molina in his last fight absolutely take over against Iori Kulang, and he was able to put it on him. He landed like 137 significant strikes in that third round. I feel like it's going to be a very high-paced fight. I feel like it finishes one way or another. I feel like if it's early, it's probably going to be Lacerda. Like we've seen when he does win, it is typically early. Or if it is late, I can definitely see it being Molina. So 8,700 for Molina, I like it. And then as far as Daniel Lacerda, 7,500, I like it as well. But yeah, it's a fight I'm going to be very heavily invested in. So yeah, Molina, Lacerda. I'm with you there, AJ. I do like Herbert and Worthy. Luke, are you with us there, or do you have a different one you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going Herbert and Worthy as well. Second best ITD line on the slate at roughly around 70% implied. I personally think that's actually short. I think that should probably be closer to 80, 85%, just based on a lot of the things that AJ ran through. Both guys kind of the killer be killed archetype since 2016. Neither guy has seen the scorecards over a 22 fight combined sample size, both potent offensive strikers, good hands, fast, power, technical, but perceivably fragile. Worthy 75% finish rate, been finished in all of his losses. Herbert 90% finish rate and has been finished in all three of his pro losses. Obviously touched on the defense. And then I think it's important to note too, like just how Jai Herbert fights. It's very forward pressure heavy. He just fights in a way that forces and engages action, even though we've seen, Worthy, fight a bit more composed on the outside in some type of fights. I just don't see him being able to keep kind of, Herbert off of him in that capacity. It's just going to be a fight. There's going to be a lot of big exchanges. I think someone goes out. It's most likely Worthy. But Herbert has his own issues himself. So I just think it's a very high action fight where this one hitting the cards, I just don't think would be very predictive. It would be both guys, standing and just staring at each other, or, a ton of wrestling, which we haven't really seen from either guy in terms of pursuing takedowns historically. So I think someone gets knocked out here and the winner finds the optimal.
I like it. Weezy, what are you liking for your favorite fight to target?
Yeah, I got to echo pretty much everything AJ and Luke just said, man. I'm going with Herbert Worthy. 11 combined losses between these two guys, and all of them have finished inside the distance. It's the best fight doesn't go to decision line on the card, or I'm sorry, the second best. But both dudes are allowing over 3 Draftkings points per minute defensively. Should be a very high-scoring fight, and I do like Jai Herbert quite a bit here. So, yeah, that's going to be the fight I'm going to be targeting, because every lineup that doesn't have Herbert will probably have Worthy.
Yep, 100%. Both guys are dangerous. Both guys have their defensive liabilities, and both guys are pretty chinny. I see a finish one way or another. So, yep, we brought up 2 really good fights to target there. Let's go to our fight to fade, and let's start with Luke. What are you fading this week?
I think obviously the choices at the bottom would be the two chick fights, but I'm actually going to go a bit of a different route here. I would say off the top, I don't think there's really actually a fight to fade on this card, because I do think there could be some sneaky finishing potential in the Clark and Souza fights. But I'm actually going with Choi in Caceres as more of a potential leverage-based play. The fight as a whole does have the third worst inside the distance line on the card at roughly 40% implied. In my opinion, and also based on the odds, the primary finishing potential in this fight is with a Choi KO, but that's only like a 25% implied probability. And Caceres historically is primarily getting finished on the ground just by better grapplers, where, that's just not really the overall game plan of Choi. We saw him wrestle a little bit against the wall, but he still doesn't have a pro win via submission, which I think is important to note. It's also important to note that Caceres has only been KO'd once in his 30-fight pro career and defends distance strikes at 69% over a very large sample size, which implies statistical significance to me. So with that, assuming Caceres doesn't go down here, it's primarily probably going to be a pitter-patter based striking affair that hits the cards, in my opinion. And I think both guys most likely bust, not to mention that 6 of 8 of Caceres's last 8 Ws have come on the cards as well. So could be a bit sweaty at points, but I actually think this is a really sneaky good fade option.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it's probably a contrarian take. I think a lot of people are going to be very high on Seung Choi this week, but I definitely 100% agree with you. But for me, the fight for me to fade is going to be Laureano Staropoli going against Jamie Pickett, a fight I really don't want anything to do with. Plus 140, fight does not go to decision. Like, even when Staropoli wins, which he doesn't do a lot, against Alves, he scored 58. Against Aldani, he scored 69. He's more than likely not going to go out here and implement a wrestling-heavy game plan. If anything, it's going to be Pickett probably going for takedowns. But I think Staropoli is going to keep it at range, which is very terrifying considering his a 9-inch reach disadvantage, and kind of pick apart, Jamie Pickett, who, I think Staropoli is the much better fighter in this matchup, but I do have my concerns. If anything, I'd probably, sprinkle in some Pickett, but I really find myself not going to Staropoli at all at 9,000. I think there's a lot better options, especially now that we even have Mason Jones, who's going to be, coming on the slate in a little bit as well. I just find it really hard to go up and get Staropoli. So if anything, it would be like a punt sprinkle with Pickett, but a fight overall that I don't want much interest in. Uncle Weezy, what are you fading this week?
Same for me, Brady. Pickett, Staropoli. So both of these guys on the offensive side are scoring less than 2 DraftKings points per minute, which is not good. If the fight goes the distance and you're scoring less than 2 DK points per minute, you're looking at an implied score less than 60. If you win by decision. So that's just awful. The pace that these guys bring is usually pretty slow, striking based. So it's going to be a low scoring fight unless one of these guys chooses to grapple. And we've seen both of them grapple a little bit, but neither one of them gets any kind of control time. So even if we do see a takedown, the other guy's probably getting right back up and it goes right back to the feet. So it's the 4th worst inside the distance prop on the card. And like I said, very little grappling upside. It's a fight that I just have very little excitement for, even as a fan. But, in terms of DraftKings, it's really hard to see one of these guys being optimal, because either it's going to be a guy with a 9-inch reach disadvantage knocking out a much bigger guy who's very durable, except for when he fights Jordan Wright. And then in Staropoli, 9-inch reach disadvantage here, really more of a natural welterweight moving up. I don't see him knocking out Pickett, even though, if Wright could do it, I'm sure, we could see Staropoli do it too, but I'm not putting my money on it. So yeah, that's the fight I'm fading so far.
I like it. PayPal saying Pickett will run instead of fighting. I'd pass on this one too. Yeah, PayPal, a big Pickett hater. David agreeing with you, Luke, that he does not see Caceres being knocked out and should be a low scoring decision win for Choi. AJ, do you agree with us, or do you have something different here?
I think the options you guys chose are completely fine. I think there's a lot of candidates on this card to fade or be underweight too. The consideration I'll go with is Lavia Souza, 8,300, and Randa Marcos at 79. The fight's very likely to go the distance. There is some grappling potential here, but I see them both just largely nullifying each other. Marcos has only been submitted one time in the UFC, or excuse me, submitted a couple times in the UFC. Submitted by Courtney Casey way back, and then Mackenzie Dern most recently. Dern's just an excellent practitioner, but she survived on the ground with Amanda Ribas. I think Ribas is a better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner than Souza is. And Souza, unlike Ribas, doesn't have really good cardio. Like, she just gets tired as fights progress. She's more likely to land takedowns, I think, here, but I think she could land anywhere from 2 to 4 takedowns. But an interesting nugget I came across was, despite Souza out wrestling some of her previous opposition, she was actually out controlled on the ground. And that's a concern I have for her in this matchup. So I just see them largely just kind of negating each other on the ground. Not a lot of finishing upside, not a lot of significant strike upside. And I think it kind of be like the Arlovsky versus Felipe fight last week from a fantasy perspective. Just not really a big scoring potential for the winner here.
Yep, agree. Like, outside of like an armbar from guard, random armbar from guard, I think this one does go to decision as well, and probably does score fairly low. So I think we're all in agreement on those ones. Next, let's go to our fighter to fade. And I'm actually going to agree with Luke here. And I thought this was going to be like a very contrarian take, and maybe it is, but my fade of the week is going to be Seung Choi, 9,200. He's obviously not going to go out there and go for takedowns. He's not going to, rack up control time. He's going to, land strikes, potential knockout, but if he does not knock out Caceres, who is very durable, only knocked out in one fight, and the dude has a ton of fights on his record, if he does win by decision, for one, I see it being a lot closer than the line indicates, and then for two, I don't see him scoring a ton with no takedowns, no control time, no knockout. He's not going to score well, and especially when you have guys up there like a Grant Dawson, you have guys like Mason Jones, who's going to be added on the slate as well, Tabatha Ricci, who I'm very high on. It's really hard for me to go up there against Seung Choi because I think he's kind of knockout or bust, and maybe he does get the knockout, but Caceres is very tough. He's very durable, so I'm going to take my chances in fading Choi, who I think is going to gain some ownership this week. AJ, who is your fade of the week for this week?
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be playing some musical cheers here. I'm going to go with Laureano Staropoli at 9K for a lot of the reasons that were touched on beforehand. Pickett is largely shown to be durable, and Staropoli, he's just not a big puncher. He just hasn't shown to be in the UFC. He's now moving up to middleweight, so he's facing larger guys theoretically that could take more damage. And he's faced some of the guys with the lesser durability at 170, and he still couldn't hurt them. He couldn't knock out Thiago Alves, who was just shot just at the end of his career. And he couldn't really he didn't knock out. He couldn't really hurt Hector Aldana as well, who we know has been stopped via strikes plenty of times. So I just think that there's going to be opportunities for Staropoli to land in volume. But again, he's very, very knockout or bust for this price. And I tend to think that, again, largely Pickett has shown to be durable. And even in that last fight against Wright, it was kind of just a weird finish, elbows from the clinch. Or elbows going for a takedown, and they just got rocked badly. I don't think Staropoli is as dangerous, so I'm going to go with Laureano Staropoli at 9K.
Sounds good. Luke, who is your fade of the week?
Yeah, I don't usually like to double down and try to diversify, but I'm sticking with Choi at 9.2 for a lot of the reasons I mentioned above. Just Caceres, like I said, he's just proven to be durable historically, and in theory, with him defending distance strikes at 69%, with that Choi KO line only sitting at 25%. Choi needs a knockout to exceed value here and have a chance at the optimal lineup. And I just don't necessarily agree that it's actually as high percentage, even as the current line indicates. And Caceres could actually be, sneaky live as a dog this week, even though I recommend it as a fade. But nonetheless, Choi is just kind of the guy I'd classify you'd want to target as like an undervalued dog, not at like minus 300, not at 9.2K. Like I said, maybe he can do it. I just don't think there's a lot of strong statistical or evidentiary basis why you would want to be overweight to Choi. But to your point too, Brady, I think a lot of people in the field will. So I think it's actually a really great opportunity to be different this week.
Yep, I'm with you there. And then Uncle Weezy, who is your fade of the week?
Yeah, it looks like we're all kind of on the same page here. I like Choi as well as a fade, but I'm going with Staropoli, just like AJ. This guy is scoring 1.86 DraftKings points per minute. That's a 57.9 score if he wins by decision, scoring that many points per minute. You're tearing up your ticket if you get 57 points out of somebody that wins in your lineup, especially if you paid up $9,000 for him. So this is just a really bad spot. And, PayPal saying, can we quit calling Pickett durable? Yeah, he's durable when you're not fucking betting on him, when you're betting on him, then he's no longer fucking durable. So he might be durable because you can fucking count on the fact that I will not be betting on his ass this time around. But yeah, dude, he just doesn't score enough. And then not only that, he's really not going to be shooting for takedowns, and Pickett really doesn't get knocked down. So yeah, I think Staropoli is a really good fade. And I also think that Choi is an excellent fade for all the same reasons that Luke said. So either one of those guys are great fades this week. And you could get you could spend your salary in much better places.
I like it. Looks like we are all on the same page in terms of the fades. But yeah, this should be a very interesting one. Our favorite dogs of the week, because there's a lot that do stick out. It was hard for me to pick one that I did like. But let's start with Luke. Luke, who is your favorite dog on the slate?
Yeah, kind of doubling up once again, but I'm actually going to go Kama Worthy at 7.4K, not because I love him in general in this fight. He's very boomer bust, but I think you can say damn near every single dog on this slate is very boomer bust. So it's kind of like a pick your poison type of spot. And for all the reasons mentioned in the general fight to target, if Worthy does win, it's most likely by knockout. It's most likely early, just based on the general pressure that Herbert brings. And given his price tag at 7.4, he's very cheap. He's only roughly 40% implied to win the fight as a whole, which isn't terrible. So I think he's a viable dog option. I don't necessarily know if I would load up on him given the boomer bust potential. You might want to kind of sprinkle your exposure again, throughout some of these lower tiers. But I like him at 7.4K for his upside this week.
Yep, Luke, I'm going to agree with you. Worthy is the guy I did go with as well. I mean, he has a ton of upside. I fully expect that he very well could be knocked out, but I think Herbert can be knocked out as well. Herbert, his defense is very, very bad. He backs up with his chin in the air. His hands are down. And Worthy, he's not the best fighter in the world at all, but he can do one thing, and that is hit very, very hard. So I think someone does get knocked out in this fight. I think Worthy is more likely to get knocked out, but for 7,400, if Worthy does win, there's a good chance that it's like a first or maybe second round knockout. So definitely taking the upside there with Worthy. I'm with you there, Luke. Uncle Weezy. Weezy, who is your favorite dog this week?
I'm going with the highest priced dog, so kind of taking the coward's way out here, and Gregory Rodriguez. Not a lot of dogs I like this week, but Rodriguez right now has the third best inside the distance prop of all the underdogs. He's got the second best first round prop. He's got the best money line, and I kind of like this matchup for him. Yong Park's got really bad takedown defense. When he has been finished, Yong Park, he's been finished by submission, and Rodriguez is very dangerous on the ground, very good grappler. And I think that Park, when he's at his most comfortable and fighting at his best, he's kind of mixing in his offensive wrestling and using his top control in order to win minutes, along with his fast hands and boxing and the exchanges that are on the feet. But I don't see him being able to go to that wrestling against Rodriguez. I don't think he wants to be on the ground with him. So I do like this matchup quite a bit for Rodriguez. $8,000, some pretty good value in those lines. And I could see a finish here by submission for him. So it's my favorite dog play on the card right now.
Sweet. So we have Rodriguez, and then we do have Worthy. AJ, any of those two, or are you going with something different?
I'm going to actually go with somebody different. I'm going to go pivot down to Daniel Lacreta, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. It's 7,500. It was touched on earlier in the show. Just like the way this guy fights, the vast majority of his wins are inside the distance. He seems dangerous on the feet and on the ground. I don't think he has the best process to his game, so he's not exactly the type of guy I would want to bet on in general. But what he is he's very athletic. I think he'll have advantages in terms of like speed and agility early over Molina, who is coming off of a good performance, I guess, in a vacuum in terms of like how exciting the fight was, landed 189 significant strikes. I don't think he's a good defensively. I don't think he's a good defensive grappler. I don't think he's a defensively sound striker. I mean, look, he won the fight last time fair and square, but he almost got knocked out there at the end. I don't think he has good defense. I think he's very hittable on the feet. And so Lacreta, if I picture him winning this fight, it's probably by an early finish. And for 7,500, a guy that's never fought in the UFC, people don't know really what to expect out of him. And unless if you've gone back on film, I'm willing to take some chances on this guy. He's not that big of an underdog even.
Yep, him and Worthy were the two guys I was like debating back and forth and giving out. So I think he's a good one as well. So we have Rodriguez, Worthy, and I guess on DraftKings they call him Daniel Da Silva for some reason out of nowhere. So Daniel Da Silva, who is 7,500, I think all three are great options. So let's move on to our favorite GPP play. For GPP, we're thinking high upside, high ceiling here. And I'm going on the flip side of my favorite dog. I'm going to go Jai Herbert. We talked about it. Someone's getting knocked out. Someone's probably getting knocked out within the first round or two rounds. Worthy's been finished in all of his losses, and he's very hittable. He has no chin. I think he's been knocked out like 7 times. So, Herbert, he's the younger fighter. I think he's going to have a height and reach advantage. I think he's the better fighter. I think he absolutely should go out here and starch Worthy. So, Herbert is going to be my favorite GPP play. I think he has a ton of upside. AJ, who are you liking for your favorite GPP play?
Yeah, I'm going to actually go over to Tabatha Ricci at 8,900. I think this is a very winnable matchup for her. I mean, she fought her UFC debut against Manon Farrow, who we were all reminded last week is a very tremendous fighter and prospect, right? She just got really stuck at range. She's now moving down back to strawweight. And she's facing an opponent in Maria Oliveira, who, if you've gone back on tape, she doesn't have a good ground game. She doesn't have good takedown defense. Ricci, a red stripe black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, also a judo background. Not a great wrestler, but if she were to get this fight on the ground, I think she could dominate past the mount, from there get a TKO stoppage, if not a submission. So I think that the stock is a bit lower on her than it should be, just based on the UFC debut of her getting finished. But this is stylistically a very, very good matchup for her, and one I think we get a low ownership, and also one where she could get a big score based on her grappling upside. So I'm all over tab with Ricci here for DraftKings.
I like to hear it. I'm pretty high on Ricci myself this week. Chris saying can't stay. Phone is dying. No charger. All good, Chris. We'll check back with you later tonight. Sounds good. All right, Luke, who is your favorite GPP play for this week?
Yeah, I'm going Ricci at 8.9 as well. I don't want to completely rehash everything that AJ said, because he pretty much hit all my main points on the head. Obviously, credential black belt in both judo and jiu-jitsu. Been doing it since she was a girl. One of the main training partners of Mackenzie Dern, longtime Black House chick too. But that is the main point I want to note, at least from a DraftKings perspective, is her debut with Fiorot. She only scored 7 DraftKings points. That was her debut. It was up a weight class. So I think a lot of the general casual players might lose some of that context there and not understand that this is a very winnable matchup, because what we have seen from Oliveira on bottom, it has not been pretty. If she makes the small mistakes she made, even back in some of her Ryzen fights, Ricci is going to finish this girl on the ground, and I feel pretty good about saying that. So at 8.9K, a girl who is going to go out there and maximize her win condition, and in doing so, it's going to come from takedowns. It's going to come from control time. It's going to come from ground and pound. It's going to come from submission. At 8.9K, you're not even paying up necessarily all the way to 9.3. So you are getting a little bit of a blimp in your salary at 8.9 for someone with a ton of upside in this matchup.
Sounds great. Yeah, we have Ricci and we have Jai Herbert, Uncle Weezy. Either of those two, or are you going a different route?
Going with Jai Herbert, that Brady. Worthy is so damn chinny, dude. He's been knocked out 7 times in his career. The other time he's been subbed, so he's been finishing inside the distance all 8 of his losses. I like Jai's striking so much better. Jai's got a 3-inch reach advantage here. I think it's a smash spot for him. I think just technically he's way better on the feet. He throws straight punches. I think he's going to get one of those 1-2s right down the middle and just send Worthy into the shadow realm, man. And I've got, Indigo Ginzo asked earlier, any ass shaving picks. Do my ass shaving of the week, even though I think it's kind of risky for somebody that's been finished as much as Jai Herbert has. He's been finished inside the distance in all 3 of his losses. I just love this matchup for him. I think he's the much better striker. We haven't seen any offensive wrestling out of Worthy in his UFC days, so I don't think if Jai's not worrying about that threat of the takedown, I think he's really going to sleep this dude in the first round. That's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Mr. Jai Herbert is also my favorite GPP play of the week.
I like it. We have Clint in the house. Weezy said Shadow Realm. Let's go. Shout out to Clint. All right, so let's move on to our favorite cash play. When we're talking cash play, we're talking about someone with a nice floor, someone who's pretty safe, and I don't want to say Mason Jones, and first of all, I don't even know what his price is going to be, but I guess I'll go up top and I'll go with Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson, he is 9,300. I think is a pretty safe pick when he typically does win. He's scoring a lot. In his last fight against Santos, I think he got maybe 1 or 2 takedowns, but still he attempted 11. If he attempts 11 takedowns here, I think he's going to get quite a few here. So he has takedown upside, control time upside. I don't see him getting knocked out or submitted, obviously. So I think Grant Dawson kind of cruises to a decision here, maybe even finds a submission at some point. But I think Grant Dawson is somebody I feel pretty confident in terms of getting the win and scoring a lot along the way. So Grant Dawson, 9,300 is going to be my cash play of the week. Luke, who is your favorite cash play this week?
Yep, I'm going right there with you with Dawson at 9.3. I just think he's the safest play on the board. 4th best ITD line on the slate, over 80% implied to win the fight as a whole. Even being up at 155 now, he's still very strong for the division. Very good wrestler, brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Dawson W looks like a lot of takedowns, control time, potentially finding a finish on the mat. Obviously, in Glenn, the guy he's taken on, worst ITD line on the slate, and has struggled with general wrestling and grappling-based archetypes in the past. So, yeah, I don't think there's much more in-depth things to say. I think it's a solid spot for Dawson, and I guess I think there's just more general safety, even outside of general odds. Just stylistically, I think there's just more general safety in Dawson than anyone on this slate.
Sounds good. AJ, what are you looking at for a cash play?
Yeah, make it 3 for Dawson, 9,300. facing Rick Glenn, who we've seen taken down multiple times in the past. In fights where Glenn got wrestled, he gave up 2, 3, and 6 takedowns. Glenn is generally good defensively, like a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very tough guy. But the pace that Dawson pushes, I think it's bode well for him. He could score well even in a decision scenario. We saw that against Negumereanu. And even on the feet, I think he could have success at range with low kicks. I think that Glenn stands very heavy on his lead leg. So I do have questions about Dawson's general upside, but I feel very strongly about my take on that. He should win this fight. He should be the better minute winner, better striker, athlete, grappler, wrestler. He's going to be my cash game play.
That is 3 for Dawson. Weezy, you going to make it 4, or is there somebody else you are eyeing for a cash play?
Dude, I'm actually eyeing Rick Glenn as a punt. When I watched the tape on him, I saw him get taken down quite a bit, but I also saw him stuff a lot of takedowns early in fights, in particular in the Bermudez fight. And in that Bermudez fight, every time Bermudez took him down, he got right back up. Dawson is a 145 or moving up to 155, just like Rick Glenn is. So it's not Dawson for me. It's going to be Mason Jones for me. I don't know what they're going to price him at, though, and it might be difficult to get him into your lineups. But it's, it just looks like a smash spot for a guy in Jones who's just a real killer. And then this kid, is taking the fight on 5 days' notice, up a weight class, and taking it against a killer like Mason Jones. It's a lot to ask. It's a really tall ask for this Onama kid. So, this is 4.21 DraftKings points per minute. Mason Jones scored in his first 2 fights. So he's, really high volume. I think he's got a really high floor in this fight. It should be an all action fight. But yeah, it'll be Mason Jones for me, but I don't know what they're pricing him at yet.
Yeah, if I had to take an educated guess, it probably would be 9,400 considering. I think last time I saw it, he's like minus 600. So probably do put him in that 9,400 range. And at that point, still probably got to play him. I think that fight's going to finish. So those were our favorite cash plays there. Now let's go to our favorite value plays. Let's start with AJ. What are you liking for some value this week?
Yeah, going over to Gregory Rodriguez at 8K. He's actually a pick 'em on a lot of books here, and I think he's got a distinct grappling advantage here. I think that Park has improved since the Anthony Hernandez fight, but we really haven't seen him tested since, and he looked pretty awful there defending takedowns, and just how he looked on the mat, like just gave Hernandez no resistance whatsoever. I mean, Hernandez is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong, a good grappler, but from what I could find on Rodriguez, I'm sure you guys came across the same thing. Very highly credentialed in submission grappling. Also a very strong guy for the weight class, 6'3", has actually fought up at middleweight in the past. So I feel like on the feet, Rodriguez may get knocked out, but I feel like for him to win this fight, for him to have his way, he's going to have some grappling success. So for AK, I'm very interested in him. I'd like to get some questions answered on the Park side. Maybe he's improved his takedown defense, but even if he has, there's still a chance it might not be up to snuff with what Rodriguez has to bring in his bag of trip. So I like Rodriguez at 8K.
I like it. And yeah, you mentioned like he might get knocked out. That was my one concern. I mean, the chin of Rodriguez, but Park doesn't strike me as some like murderous power puncher. So yeah, I do like that as well. Luke, what are you looking at in terms of a value play?
I'm going all the way down to Mr. Villanueva at 7.1, 4th best ITD line on the slate, 83% KO rate in his W's. His opponent Neg's never been finished before, but is very defensively liable. We've seen him hurt in multiple fights, even in a couple of his most recent ones in the UFC. I personally don't think Villanueva is a UFC caliber fighter, but I also don't think his opponent is either. And just when you kind of throw both of those archetypes into the soup, we're going to most likely come out and bang. I think Villanueva is going to have knockout opportunities and knockout upside. And if he does win this fight, that's how he's going to win. And at 7.1, I think you're saving some salary on him. He's obviously very boomer bust, but definitely has high upside in the win. So I think there's a lot of value on him at 7.1.
I'm going to agree. I do like Villanueva as well at 7.1 in terms of a value play, because I think this should be probably should be lined closer, right? Like I don't see, in what world Negumereanu should be like minus 250 against anybody. On top of that, this guy has a lot of holes in his game. This guy is very hittable. He absorbed 102 significant strikes against Alexa Kamor. What I'll say is that he's very durable. He's very tough. He has a very good chin. But when you have a 26% striking defense, Ike Villanueva can crack, so a knockout would not shock me. Ike Villanueva does hit very hard. He has finished. When he does get a finish, it is by knockout. And with that 26% strike in defense, it would not, shock me in the slightest if Ike was able to touch that chin. So yeah, I'm with you there. 7,100. I think the line's off. I think the price is off. I think Ike Villanueva, although I'm with you, I don't think he's UFC caliber. I think he has a puncher's chance here. So I'll give me Ike Villanueva in terms of a value play at 7,100. And then Uncle Weezy, what do you like in for some value on the slate?
I'm so pissed off right now, Brady. I don't know how the hell I missed Negumereanu having 26.5% striking defense. I would have had like a 5-minute comedy bit ready for stat diggers had I seen that. I can't believe I didn't see that, man. That is unbelievable. Let's see, what did I have picked? Okay, so my value pick is going to be Caceres this week. A lot of the reasons why Luke said he was fading Choi is why I think Caceres could be a relatively good punt this week. If you don't like a lot of these underdogs and you want to have a really low-priced option to punt with so you could fit 5 guys that you think have a chance to win the fight in there, Caceres has the second lowest salary, but his fight has the third worst fight doesn't go to decision prop. So there's better than a 50% implied probability that he fights for 15 minutes. He scores about 2.73 DraftKings points per minute, which isn't too bad. And his opponent isn't likely to blanket him with wrestling and control time. So maybe you can score even like 3 or 3.25 DraftKings points a minute. Even if he loses the fight, he could get you up in the neighborhood of around 40, 45. If it goes to a decision, good punt. If you win with your other 5 entries there, you got a really good chance to place in any tournament. So, yeah, I think it's a really good value option this week because there's not a lot down there. Like, there's some boomer bust options like Lacerda, like Villanueva, even like Joselyne Edwards or Paulo Costa. They've got knockout power. But, they probably aren't going to win the fight. So I was looking for somebody really cheap that had a really good chance of going the full 15 and putting up a decent amount of points, even in a losing effort. That would be Caceres for me.
There you go. I think Caceres is going to be very low owned as well. So another thing to look at. We have the general in the chat. Brady, Weezy, what is up? We have BP in the chat as well. Ike isn't winning. Yeah, I don't mind taking some shots on him in terms of a value play. I am personally picking him to lose as well. All right, so next we'll go to our last section until we get into the questions, picks, and all that good stuff. We have the dart throw. So very interested to hear some of your guys' takes on these. For me, I'll start it. My dart throw is going to be Daniel Lacerda, or I guess they're Daniel Da Silva on DraftKings, 7,500. And the reason being, I think is a dart throw because I don't think a ton of people are going to have him. I've not done ownership yet, but I think a lot of people are going to be on the Molina side. We all saw him go out there and put on a phenomenal performance. We don't know a ton about this Daniel Lacerda guy, but from what I've seen, I like his game. He has nice takedowns, brown belt at BJJ. His striking looks good as well from the limited tape I've seen, like I said. So still a lot of question marks on him for me, and I'm sure a lot of people as well. And I'm assuming he's going to be somewhat low owned, and there is some question marks. So for me, Lacerda or Da Silva is going to be my dart throw at 7,500. I think if he does win, I think it's going to be inside the distance. I think he has one win outside of the first round. The rest of his wins are all first round finishes. He's very dangerous. 100% finish rate, 55% by sub, and then 45% by knockout. And I think it was either Luke or AG who touched on it, but Molina, he's hittable. Molina can be taken down. He has no takedown defense. So another path to victory for Da Silva there. So give me Daniel Da Silva, 7,500 as a dart throw. Weezy, what are you looking at for a dart throw here?
Same exact thing, man. He's making his UFC debut. A lot of people don't know who this kid is, but when he wins quickly. He's got 10 wins, or I don't know if it's 10 or 11 wins, but they're all in the first round except for one. So he gets in and he gets out. Very explosive. If this kid wins, he's almost definitely optimal. And Molina does leave some holes. He definitely gets taken down easily. He will show his back to his opponent when he gets back up. Molina does have a really good get-up game when he gets taken down, but if he makes a mistake down there, Lacerda might catch him in something. He also hits hard. Dude's got a head kick knockout on his resume. And, like we say, he's very dynamic. Almost all but one of his wins are in the first round. So it's a really high upside, low priced option as a dart throw. Somebody that people aren't familiar with, people that they haven't even seen him fight in the UFC. And even if you're looking for tape on this guy, you can only find 3 fights of him, and there's less than like 10 minutes of tape out there on him. So just because of him being little known, high upside finisher, I think it's a great dart throw.
I like it. So we're on the same page there. AJ, what are you looking at for a dart throw this week?
Yeah, we were talking beforehand before we got on the show, and I might as well just come out and say it. I will play some David Onama here. I was talking a big game. I think he's a talented guy that perhaps could make waves in this weight class. Maybe this is too big of a step up, but I think he's a pretty legit talent. Very long and dangerous at range. He also just reminds me of like a very strong athlete, kind of like a Montel Jackson. Not the most dangerous guy, or not the most technical guy, I should say, on the ground. I've seen him get his back taken, but guy's got power. Jones is hittable defensively. Jones is very durable, but there's definitely some chance here that we see these guys stand and bang a little bit. And Onama, just based on his range, his power. Again, I'm not saying he's likely to win. I think Jones is the rightful favorite and all that, but he's a guy that's just totally off the board. Don't really expect anybody to play him. Newcomer, short notice. I'm going to take some chances on him in large field GPPs, but again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm going 50% owned on this underdog. It would be like more than the field, which will, again, be not that much.
No, I mean, I love that. I mean, you're assuming he's going to be like priced at like 6,800, somewhere around that area. He's a huge underdog, and he's a finisher, 100% finish rate from the guy. He's dangerous, and Mason Jones is hittable. So, yep, definitely don't hate that whatsoever. And then, Luke, who is your favorite dart throw for this week?
Yeah, it kind of pains me to say it in some way, but I'm actually going Dwight Grant at 7.8K. Ironically, I've just always been a big fan of Trinaldo and lower on Grant. But Trinaldo is 43 years old now. For a guy who's been known for his durability over the course of his career, he's been dropped in his last 2 fights. Grant is a fast guy. He's an explosive guy. He hits hard. 64% of his wins do come by KO. I think he's an interesting dart throw this week because he will be low owned. People might actually just look to fade this fight in general. And there is definitely an argument for that. Grant's game log isn't great. He's only plus 300 to win inside the distance, but these 40-plus-year-old Brazilians, it just tends not to go overtly well in the aggregate for them, and just kind of what I've seen in these last couple fights, despite this being a step down for Trinaldo, which needs to be noted. Like I said, he's explosive, he hits hard, and I think he does have a chance to floor Trinaldo here. And at 7.8, I think he might be a guy that's floating a little bit under the DraftKings base radar who could put up an excellent score if that does come to fruition.
Yeah, interesting you say that. My hot take of the week is Grant knocks out Trinaldo and gives him his first knockout loss. So we'll see if that does happen. David on the other side here saying Trinaldo as a dart throw should be low owned. Grant got blasted by D-Rod. Can't see Trinaldo putting him away as well. I think the whole fight in general, the Trinaldo and Grant fight, is just one dart throw that I think we should all take a look at. So, yep, guys, now let's move on and see who won the contest last week for DraftKings. While we're doing that, anybody in the chat, type your questions. We will get to those very shortly. We'll answer all of those. So let's go to the contest. So last week, I believe I got first place. So I went from first to last here. Terrible performance on my part. Had Aspen Ladd, Luana Carolina. I did get that right, so that was nice. Had Manon Fiorot, had Jim Miller, had that bum Ludovic Klein, and then also Brandon Davis got starch in round 1. So, yeah, terrible performance by me. 314.08 DraftKings points. Weezy, a little bit better. He had Ladd as well. Silva, Fiorot, Nunez, Miller, and also Davis scoring 348.01. And then in second place is Luke with Klein, Miller, Carnelossi, Ladd, Sanchez, Roberts scoring 397.02. And then in first place, AJ with Ladd, Miller, Fiorot, Davis, Sanchez, and Carnelossi. Shout out to Luke and AJ, both with a very good Carnelossi call at 8,500. So, yeah, shout out to AJ. AJ, you got first place. How's it feel?
Feels good. Took some bold stands there. Wasn't a tremendous night overall, but take the win when I can. Got to keep a humble mindset, though, as I've said it time and time again. You guys are extremely sharp, and it would be foolish of me to just assume that I'm going to be winning every single contest that goes from here on out. So let's see what happens this week.
Yeah, man, congrats. That Carnelossi call was really good. But yeah, it was a very tough night last week. So now let's get into our lineups for this week. And I will say we're going to have 2 fights getting added on. So our lineups very well have a good chance of changing, and they probably will. But let's start with Weezy. Weezy, do you have a lineup for this week?
Yeah, I don't know if this is exactly from most expensive to least, but I'm going with Ricci, Herbert, Molina, Vettori, Rodriguez, and Caceres.
Sounds good. Luke, do you have a lineup for this week?
Yep, I'm actually gonna stack the main this week too. I'm going Dawson, Ricci, Vettori, Jessica Rose Clark, Costa, and Caceres.
Sounds good. AJ, how about you?
I'm going to go with Dawson at 93, Ricci at 89, Costa at 76, Rodriguez at 8K, Lacreta da Silva, whichever you want to call him, 75, and then Clark at 85.
Sounds good for me. I'm going Tabatha Ricci. I'm actually taking a dog shot with Worthy. I'm taking Negumereanu. I am taking Dawson, and I am taking Da Silva, and then I'm taking Paulo Costa. But yeah, that might change with the emergence of those two fights. So now I say we get into some questions. Before we do so, I do want to ask, we didn't really touch on the Jessica Rose Clark, Joselyne Edwards fight. We'll go AJ. Do you have any hot takes on that fight?
I think Edwards has some favorable metrics. She's got the reach and the age advantages, but other than that, I think this is a pretty good fight for Rose Clark on the feet. I think she's a better striker. And I think she's not known for her wrestling, but if she wants to get takedowns and get control time, she's the much more likely candidate to do so. And they obviously have a common opponent in Alpar and had two completely different results there. So Rose Clark coming in on a layoff ligament injury, there's some concern there, but I think that Edwards just has a lot of issues with takedown defense and scrambling up off of her back. So she's just a candidate that could give up easy rounds on the feet or on the ground. So I tend to side rather with Jessica Rose Clark.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. I think she's an interesting target because I think her path to victory is going to be getting takedowns and control time. Weezy, how many Weezy punchlines did he miss?
I don't know. There may have been a couple today, but there would have been some really good ones had I eyed that 26% striking defense from Negumereanu. I would have written out some great jokes for that, but I'm slipping in my old age, Brady. Sometimes I miss these things. I have to apologize to our audience for missing that, and I'm going to have to write some material about that. Hopefully he shows better than 26% striking defense against Hurricane Ike. Otherwise, and dude, can we talk about Nicolae's chin? That guy's chin is next level. I mean, he didn't flinch when he got hit with any of the shots in any of these fights. Like the ref had to pull Safarov off of him, otherwise he would have kept going. Man, that's going to be such a fun fight. That Hurricane Ike against Nicolae is going to be such a fun fight. I can't wait for that one.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Negumereanu, David's asking if he's a good play here. Luke, do you have any interest in Negumereanu in this fight?
I mean, I do. I'm definitely going to have him rostered, but I think he's also going to get a lot of ownership. So just in terms of being different, I probably actually will be underweight to him just because I do like a couple of the other options in that range better. I do like Dawson and Ricci right around there a bit better.
Sounds good. Indigo saying, I'd love to see Brady and Weezy cover Bellator and PFL events in the future, especially since nobody else really covers them. Is that a future possibility? Weezy.
So, for me, it's not right now because being a stats guy, doing analysis for events or for promotions that don't have publicly available stats would make me kind of worthless. Plus, building this database that I'm building is taking a lot of time. Before I take on another project, I need to finish all my UFC work, and I've got a lot more work to do. So I'm going to, we're going to have to let some of the other cappers in the business, and there's some great ones in this room right now who already do these kind of events. You should be asking people like Luke and AJ who are masters of this kind of stuff.
Yep, 100% agree. I don't have time for that at the moment, but maybe in the future. David's saying, any idea what price Laws of Philly will be? He opened up as a -170 favorite. I'm not sure. We'll have to see, but hopefully not too expensive. He is somebody I'm going to be targeting. I did miss another question in here. What was it? AJ, any ass shaving picks of the week?
I think we're all on board. Maybe not Uncle Weezy to the same extent with Dawson. I think he's a pretty viable consideration to go out there and get the thing done. Glenn's like kind of a workman guy, not particularly dangerous. And I just think that in a fight that goes 3 rounds, Dawson's better than him everywhere. So I would lean that Dawson would be the ass shaving pick of the week.
I like it. My ass shaving personally is going to be Tabatha Ricci. I think she shaves Oliveira's ass pretty handily. Luke, how about you? Any ass shaving picks?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Mrs. Ricci as well. I wish the line kind of reflected the lesser sentiment from the last fight, and there was a bit better of a price on her. But yeah, I think it's a great style matchup, and she's going to turn some heads here.
Sounds good. We'll take a couple more questions, guys, and we'll head out of here. Weezy, what are your thoughts of if Vettori Costa is at a catch weight of 195? Costa said he is at 211 pounds today.
So I picked Costa last night on my show, Just the Tip, before I heard this news, and I'm not exactly sure what to think of it. I think Vettori trying to wrestle an even bigger guy that doesn't have to cut down to 185, it's only cutting down to 195, is not going to be as good for Vettori. I think I'm gonna stick with my Costa pick here, but that news, you don't like hearing that somebody's not going to make weight, because there's one of several reasons that could be why that happened. It could be an injury that we don't know about. It could be not the kind of discipline that we're used to seeing out of Costa during his camp. Maybe he's not training as hard. Maybe he's got some kind of an ailment that we don't know about. So it's hard to bet Costa now that we're hearing this news, but I still kind of think he's going to win this fight. It's just I don't think I can bet it now.
Yeah, such a weird situation. I mean, Vettori talking about how the fight might have to be moved up to light heavyweight even. So yeah, we'll definitely have to monitor that throughout the week. But I say we get into our quick picks here. I'll start it off. I'm going to go with Marvin Vettori. Like I said, we'll see kind of where that does lead to in later in the week in terms of where the fight's going to be at. But as of now, Marvin Vettori, Grant Dawson, Jessica Rose Clark, Nick Negumereanu, Seung Choi, Dwight Grant, Souza, Lacerda, Rodrigues, Ricci, give me Herbert, and then give me Staropoli, and then Mason Jones, and then Lazishvili, or whatever his last name is. AJ, what are you looking at for your picks here?
I'm going to go with Vettori, Dawson, Clark, Choi, Grant, Negumereanu, Rodrigues, Jones, Ricci, Staropoli, Herbert, Molina, Souza, and Lazishvili.
Sounds good. And then Luke, how about you?
Yep, Vettori, Dawson, Clark. Gonna say Caceres actually pulls the upset. Grant, Negumereanu, Rodrigues, Jones, Ricci, Staropoli, Herbert, Molina, Randa Marcos, and Lazishvili.
Sounds good. And Uncle Weezy, how about you?
I'm going Costa, Dawson, Jess, Choi, Grant, Negumereanu, Rodrigues, Jones, Ricci, Staropoli, Herbert, ass shaving of the week, Molina, Marcos, and I'm going to go with Lazishvili. I think he can out wrestle and maybe out grapple Martinez.
Sounds good. Last question. Goodness, Ivan. Weezy, I need to bet big and lose so I can dodge my tax returns. Can you give me the shittiest fighter to bet on, please?
Dude, you know what? You want to find a really shady accountant. There are dozens of them. Now, I don't know exactly where you live, but if you find an accountant with a Greek last name, I guarantee you they're shady and they can get you to not pay what you would normally be paying in taxes. As far as somebody to bet on, dude, if you want to bet on a shit fighter, how about Jamie Pickett? Huh? What do you guys think? Yeah, I mean, like if there's one guy, AJ, Luke, what do you think, man?
I mean, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I don't even know if I would do it. I don't even know if I would do it to lose money. I'm just like that. Like I don't want to do it unless if I believe it's going to come through. But,
I'll say it right. I'll say one. Randa Marcos. I'm picking her to win. You want to bet on a complete dart throw and hope she shows up, Randa Marcos. But
oh my goodness! All right, best of luck to you, Ivan, and your tax issues you got going on there. But yeah, I mean that's the show, guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out. If you guys can leave a like, let's kick it around. AJ, let them know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week.
Yeah, Twitter, AJ MMA Betting, contribute to my website as well as Daily Fan MMA. Check us out there. Good luck to everybody in the chat. Let's do this thing. Please send the screenshots if you do so choose to. Looking forward to that on Saturday evening. Let's do this thing.
Sounds good. And then Luke, let them know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Yep, Twitter at SWR_betting, patreon.com/SWR betting, bets, content, all that good stuff. dailyfanmma.com doing contender series content over there, coming off a couple of really solid weekends. 2 weeks left on that if you guys want to check it out. Club and Sub podcast on YouTube. Actually, tonight at 9 o'clock, we're going to run through the full card as well if you're looking for some more MMA action on this card.
You're going live tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern?
10 Eastern, I'm sorry. Club and Sub podcast.
Sounds good. Check them out tonight. Always a fun show to watch. And then Uncle Weezy, let them know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week.
Yeah, check me out on Twitter at MMA Weezy, and then you can check me out on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. I do balls deep breakdowns of fights. I do a full card breakdown every Tuesday night called Just the Tip. Just did it last night, where I give you a greasy 4-leg parlay, break down all the fights from a statistical perspective. Finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. This week it's Jai Herbert. My last 2 ass shavings of the week did not even make it to fight day. I think there's a lot of pressure on these guys that are getting picked on and picked against for the ass shaving of the week. And some of these guys, they just chose not to even show up to the fight with that kind of an albatross potentially hanging around their neck. Let's hope Jai Herbert and Kama Worthy make it to the cage this weekend. Thank you, everybody, for watching. God bless each and every one of you.
I sure hope so. Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, and right here on YouTube, DFS by the numbers, and on Pub Sports Radio on Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday with Uncle Weezy, these guys, and then also Billy Briz doing some NFL content. And yeah, guys, thanks again. If you guys can please leave a like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week. Good luck for UFC Vegas 41.